Okay, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Muscle News and Merlin Podcast. How you doing there, Kevin, all the way from Malta?
I'm okay. Late, but
You're
it's
good.
good.
I know it's late for you. Well, we promised you guys a very, very special guest, and he is here with us today. This is, of course, the one and only, the legendary Flex Wheeler. And Flex, I want to say a huge thank you to you for coming on the show with us today.
It's an honor, brother. It's an honor. We go way back, so it's an honor to be our guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we do go way back. It's interesting. The audience might not know that, you and I, well, first of all, before even that, I mean, you were one of my biggest inspirations in bodybuilding. I have considered your physique to me the standard of what was as close to perfection as you could possibly get for bodybuilding. That has always been it's still to this day, my opinion.
Thank you,
Uh,
man. Thank you.
and we actually worked together back in 2009. You were working with EFX Sports, and you guys brought me on to EFX Sports. We got to work together uh,
Yeah.
way back then. So that's what's going back almost at 16 years ago.
Wow.
That's
Jeez.
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Um, so we were back together doing that to when I first met you, and we, got to know each other. And then, we've always kind of like stayed in contact. But of course, you were out in Las Vegas, and then I moved to Las Vegas, and now we see each other in the Dragon's Lair all the time. And
Yeah. Well, not all the time because I don't always show up. So
true, but I'm always so happy when you show up. I love to see you at the gym. As soon as I know you probably don't think so, but as soon as I see you in the gym, and I know a lot of people feel this way, it energizes everybody because just to see you there and
Yeah.
working out, even though you're not, pushing yourself like the old days, just to have you there, just create
Yeah.
some sort of, I don't know, just some type of energy that's not there when you're not there. So we like
really,
it when you're there, buddy.
wow. Wow. Yeah, that's the problem that I struggle with is getting in there. I know working out and resistance training is truly the fountain of youth. That's what happened to us when we get older. We lose our muscle mass, we lose our flexibility, we hunch over and stuff like that. So I'm fully aware of that. But, I mean, as a lot of people are being more open about talking about mental health, that's just something that I struggle with my identity and
Yeah.
what I look like now and, the health problems that I go through. So I truly just struggle just going in there. But once I'm in there, I'm always happy. I'm always happy to work out and stuff like that. So I just got to kick myself in the butt and get back in there.
Yeah.
What you're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to give me your address. I'm gonna drive over in my new car, pick you up, and bring you over there.
Jeez. Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but whenever you're in the gym, it's awesome, and and I've gotten to know you a lot better since we've been in Vegas, and we talk all
Yeah.
the time about all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
it's I knew that I wanted to get you on this podcast. We've had some great people on here. We had Lee Haney, we had Rich Gaspari, we had Tom Terwilliger. We had some really great people, but one of the people that I absolutely wanted to have on here that both Kevin and I was you, and so I'm glad that you could be here today with us.
No, it's an honor, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kevin, I'm going to get to the first question, all right?
Yeah.
Because I want
Before
to.
before
Oh,
we
go ahead. You go.
before we start, Flex,
I know what you're going to say.
Eric was talking about 16 years ago and going to the gym and all that stuff. August 23rd, Flex, the big
Is that your
60.
birthday?
Yeah, I'll be
Yeah.
60 in 3 days. Wow.
I just
Yeah.
noticed today. I was like, happy birthday, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
You
bro.
don't. You know what? You don't look 60, bro. You do
No,
not
no,
look
no.
60.
Well,
Yeah,
thank God you can't judge a book by its cover.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you wouldn't know it looking at me, but I'm actually 146. So, I'm looking
Wow. Wow. Well,
to.
you're actually younger than the image behind you. So,
yeah.
you look good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep,
But
that's true.
what I wanted to just to make a small thing before Eric starts. I think it was 2017. You were at the Arnold Europe, uh, and I was walking around
Remember.
the first day. There was Kevin with his lines, and all these other guys with their huge lines. You had a huge line, and it's like, Oh God, I don't have time to stay in this line. The freebies.
Yeah,
Everybody's giving
yeah,
out the freebies. So
yeah, yeah.
the next day, I remember because I have this. Remember that hat?
Wow. Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
And I came up to you the second day, and I saw you like alone. Maybe there was 3 or 4 people. And I went up to you. I said, "Hey, Flex, how's it going?" You gave me your time because there wasn't really any people. And I said, "What happened?" I said, "Some guys are still, with all these cues, and you're a legend here. You're probably the biggest legend." And you told me when you stop giving out free things when they're finished, the people
Yeah,
disappear. And I was like, it's like that's the state of the sport. Some people don't even know who you are, and
yeah,
just because you give them a free sample of something, and we
yeah,
stayed there laughing, and it's like it's surreal, it's
yeah,
unbelievable that things like this happen today, like some people are just
yeah. That's truly the way expos are now. I mean, I
yeah,
I remember going to some expos and people would literally bring suitcases,
yeah,
get
yeah,
free stuff, go back to their hotel, empty the suitcase and come back. So that's
yeah,
kind of what it's come now. I mean, I
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember back in my time of competing, we would do seminars and it would just be thousands of people in the
yeah,
audience because people were eager to learn. But now you do a seminar,
exactly,
maybe you get,
yeah,
50 or 60 people. So times have really changed.
yeah, yeah. I just wanted to mention that because it always stuck in my head, it was like unbelievable,
Yeah, yeah, great, great.
you wanna
Nice
Yeah.
hat, by the way.
yeah, great.
So Flex, one of the things, and we have a whole list of things I want to talk about with you, Kevin and I. So one of the things that, I want to discuss was going back in your day when you were trying to turn pro.
Yeah,
Everybody was doing, the USA and the nationals, and there was not 50 pro cards handed out per contest.
Yeah,
Uh, and back when you were doing that back then, that the depth of the lineups that would be at those shows was really almost like a Mr. Olympia preview. I mean, of
yeah,
guys before turn pro. They were so deep that it was almost like everybody kind of took turns. Like you turn pro this year, then the
yeah.
next guy, the next guy. What do you think about today in comparison? Why do you think that it's not deep like that anymore? That the guys who are turning pro, I mean, not everyone, but the guys who are turning pro really aren't of the caliber now that it was in your day when there was just so many. I think there's any reason for that?
My hypothesis on that is like you said, it was only three shows a year that you could turn pro at. So, you know, you really had to wait until you are 100% ready because there would always be the best person, and maybe you're close, but you're not the best person. So you'd have to wait a whole another year or a whole another couple of months to get better and better. So, for me, first time I competed in a national show, I think it was 91,
yeah,
and I did, all three circuits, and then had to wait again, because I ran into Mike Matarazzo, who's a little bit better than me. And then, I ran into Kevin LeBron, and then I had to come back the following year. So I think now, because there are so many different outlets of where you can turn pro, you don't have to like wine. Wine has to sit for years to get better and better. And that's what I think bodybuilding was back then. We had to sit and we had to simmer and get better and better. Where now there's so many shows that maybe you don't have to be your ultimate best, but just the best around that around that caliber of people that you turn pro. So there's a lot more outlets, and then also I think it's just there's so many other categories because I mean competing in the open, I mean, you got to be like red hot. Everything got to be great. Your legs, your calf, your upper body. Where now you have categories where you don't really have to focus on your legs so much, just your upper body. So it's easier to pick that route because we all know that legs is some of the hardest body parts to grow unless you're just truly gifted, like, some of the leg monsters and stuff like that. But normally legs are just difficult to grow. So, you can turn pro quicker if you don't have to like have great legs also, and you just have a great upper body. So obviously if you just go in the gym and you train your upper body, it's going to grow and you don't have to worry about leg day or anything like that. So it's so many other categories, but those are just my guesses on why the open category isn't as great as it was before, because you had me, you had Sean. When we turned pro, we literally walked into the next pro show, and we did great at it, and then we would do that. So you have a lot of guys now who are turned pro, and after they turn pro, they'll sit in their weight 2 or 3 years because they know they're not pro ready yet. So it's a great difference, but it has opened a door for more people to be on the pro stage, because before it was only open. That was it. There was no other category. So, it was like you said, in the 90s, it produced a lot of people who are actually now in a bodybuilding Hall of Fame, because we just always had to be at our ultimate best, because we knew we were going against somebody else. I mean, I think the 1991 Nationals still to date is one of the most highest caliber, competitions, because you had me, you had Ronnie, you had Matt Mendenhall, you had some of these great names, Kevin LeBron, Chris Comer, you had some of these great names that you're going against. And, you can take any one of them in the 90s and put them in a national qualifier now, and they would easily win. So,
Well, I mean, just your opinion, and this is completely your opinion. Do you think that, I mean, I understand, the sport has opened up the doors to different categories. We have classic, we have men's physique, we have, those different categories for women as well. And now, like I said, we're seeing guys who win pro cards, maybe more so in the open class than any other, that aren't ready to really jump into pro shows right away. Do you feel, just as a personal thing, that it's better for the sport the way it is now, or not as good for the sport? In other words, that the talent is more diluted now, but yet more people get to turn pro. What do you think about that?
It depends, it depends on which side of the coin you lay on. If you're on the business side of it, then obviously it's better for you, because you're able to make more money, and there's more competitors. If you're just a pure athlete, or you're just purely looking at the athleticism, then it isn't, because I mean, I hate, I really hate to compare my era against other eras, because each era should be better than the other. But a lot of times people say the 90s were like the heydays, so I hate doing that. But
It's a tough one, because I understand your point of view. As a business model, it's great for the IFBB, obviously, no doubt about it. But I think a lot of
just at athleticism, no, the caliber is down. What I was going to say is, back then, you always knew who the national champion was. You always knew who the USA champion was. The North America kind of really didn't get that much heat, because, back then we're like, oh, you cheated. You took the easy way out.
The easy one, yeah.
Yeah, you took the easy way out. But you always knew who the national champion was. You always knew who the USA champion was. I can't say that's the case now. I can't say that's the case now at all. So as far as just pure caliber, no, it's a little diluted compared to where it was before, because like I said, before it was only 3 outlets a year. You only had 3 outlets a year. And then the nationals, you had each class that turned pro. But in the USA, you couldn't be just a lightweight, heavyweight, or the heavyweight. You didn't have to beat all those classes. And so, it was different.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find it, I mean, personally, as somebody, and I think that most of the people from your era, my era, whatever you want to say, find it almost like a little bit disappointing that you don't see the caliber of the guys that you used to see? Do you find that a little bit disappointing in a way? Or
Yeah, and I remember, I mean, I had the honor of standing on stage with just some absolutely legendary people. Lila Brada, I watched him in the magazine, and and had the honor of competing with him a few times. And I remember after he retired, he said, Flex, I don't go shows anymore. I don't see people like you up there. I don't see people who are towing that line that we did, and I know it's a big conversation now, but just, back then you had to be great at not only just posing, you had to be great at presenting yourself. Yeah. You had to be great at mastering your weaknesses. And then you had to bring that all together and then put a entertaining routine together. I remember we were always so competitive. We wanted to outdo each other in our posing routine, and the posing routine was judged. So you had to put more time into it. So you don't have that now. And, and as a professional, I think as a professional, you need to be a professional in all those categories. Exactly. And I know they changed that. I'm not really sure why they changed it, but that I think that hurt as far as the entertaining part of the show. Yeah. So now you only get people who are going because they have a friend or a family relative or their training partner. You don't just get people just go just to watch because they heard of this guy or they know this one guy that's going to put on an amazing, entertaining show. Yeah. It's definitely changed. And, to answer your question, it is a little harder. I mean, even myself, I live here in Vegas and there's tons of shows here in Vegas, but I don't really go to any of them because it just, you'll have, more guys up there on stage, but, that doesn't just, let me put it like this. Bodybuilding, anyone can do it. Absolutely anyone can go in a gym and train. Absolutely anyone can go and be on stage. There's no qualification to go in and doing a local show. Yeah. In any other sport, football, basketball, any of those sports, you got to be good. Yeah. It's competitive. You have to be good just to be able to play in a game. Yeah. So because of that, our sport is so wide open. There is a chance that you get guys who go up on stage and you're looking, I'm like, dude, you don't belong here. Or you should have waited, or you're like a year out. What are you doing? Yeah. So I think that, and overall, I think that does hurt the sport. I come from an era where it was highly competitive. We had to be professionals, even at an amateur. You had to be a great poser, or you lost points on that. So it does bother me a little bit.
Yeah. We've discussed the posing issue a whole bunch of times on this show, and I think that's one of the biggest lost arts of bodybuilding, that you just very rarely see anybody care about their posing routines anymore, and they're all just standing on stage, trying to make applause with the holding the ears, and the music is just background music. When back in the day, everybody was putting on posing routines where they were telling a story.
Oh yeah,
was part of the routine. They went hand in hand. Now it's just like background music, and that, to me, like you said, I think is one of the biggest losses, because most people put on a posing routine and people in the audience are looking at their phone, they're talking, they're walking out. But back then you wanted to see what Flex Willis going to do? What is Sean Ray going to do? What's Lee Labrada going to do?
Yeah.
Having it, well, there it is right there, 93.
Yeah, 93. I mean, even when I retired, I remember telling people like Tony Freeman, Melvin Anthony, man, keep the dream alive. I come just to watch you. And literally, it would be like a story. It's almost like old school rap. Old school rap, they actually told a story, and you can sit there and mentally visualize everything that's saying. Where now it's a bunch of like kids' cadence and stuff like that. So, time has changed, definitely.
Yeah, I find that disappointing. All right, well, Kevin, what you got for Flex next?
I'm gonna move forward a bit to, like, I agree with you totally about the pro cards. I think personally they are watered down. They don't have the meaning they had before. So you had to be the best to get a pro card, and that's why you guys used to go in, which I'm gonna lead into now. Used to turn pro and start competing immediately. So Flex, you got your pro card in 1992, all right, at the USA's. And then in 93, you came in. Now, the order of the contest, obviously, there was the Arnold. You won.
Yeah.
First the Ironman.
You won the Ironman. Yeah. Then, obviously, you won the Arnold. And then you placed second in England to Claremont, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then
no. In 93, I won the Ironman. I won the Arnold. I went
Second.
over. I did the French Grand Prix and then the German Grand Prix.
Yeah, you won
and
those.
then I placed second to Dorian.
Yeah, you won those. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, placing second to Dorian, you got a Dorian. I mean, Kevin placed second to him on his Olympia debut the year before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you got a Dorian that was like much more improved with no injuries.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if it was anybody else, I think you could have easily won it. How did it feel placing second to him? That did you think like, all right, now in '94 or whatever, I'm gonna win it, or I'm gonna keep moving on and improving on that, even though not '94, '95 then, because then you came back in '95.
Yeah, I wasn't a historian of the sport. I didn't know of too many people who had competed before me. I'd heard of Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously. I heard of Sean Ray, and I heard of Leah Haney. Those are only like names I know. And so, unlike a lot of competitors now, they know the sport and the history of the sport. So, like I said a few times, in the Pro Ironman show, I competed against Vince Taylor. And at the time, Vince Taylor was ranked number 3 in the world. So I'm like, how in the world am I going to beat this guy? So winning, I was like, wait a minute. I just thought it was like a joke. It's like, oh, you probably didn't take the show that serious. The honor class is going to be a big show, so I'm going to lose in. And then it was, Lita brought in Vince Taylor, who was ranked number 2 and number 3. So when I won that, I was like, I still just didn't understand, what was going on. I literally thought they were going to come to my house and take my trophy, that they made a mistake. I did. I was just waiting. I was like, man, I'm not even going to cash a check because I know they're going to come and take it from me. And then a French in the Grand Prix, the German Grand Prix. But again, going to the Olympia, I knew Dorian. We had met the year before, after he had won his first Olympia. He had came to Gold's Gym, and he had walked up and like, hey, Flex, how you doing? I was like, Jesus, man, you know my name? I'm like, really? And we always got along. So I just thought, because, I was so immature about the sport. It was my first time competing against Sean. I thought he was going to beat me because these are all seasoned pros. This is my first year. I don't even know what's going on. I didn't really understand even dieting or anything like that. So after I had beat Sean, I literally, when I gave him a hug, I literally apologized to him in his ear, like, man, I'm sorry. I know they got this wrong. You should have beat me, because he was higher ranked than I was. So when it came to Dorian, it was obviously, I knew I was going to take second. This is Dorian Yates. He's Mr. Olympia. So I was just so happy to freaking be there. I was like a kid in a candy store. And I remember going back to the hotel, I ran into, for the first time in the world, Serge Olivier. And he actually opened a door for me when I was walking into the hotel. And he looked at me, goes, kid, I know you don't understand, but you won that show. And I was like, dude, I don't care about that. I'm meeting you. That's, so. But I was just, I was so childish, like, and so immature with the sport. I like I was saying about athletes turning pro and I'm not really ready. I'm actually happy that I didn't win the Olympia, because I didn't have any respect for it. I just thought it was another show. I didn't really understand the history of it. I didn't know the people who had won before me. So I would have let the title down, because I was still very immature as a person and all that stuff. And I don't think I would have done the title justice,
Wow.
So yeah.
That's an interesting perspective. Like, it's really interesting to hear you say that you feel that you are in a sense, physique wise, maybe you would be worthy of the title, but not mentally, and how you would carry the title with you as an ambassador for the sport. That's amazing. I never heard you say that.
Yeah. No, I truly believe that. And even, people like, you should have won Olympia. And I, again, I've talked about this before. It's like if you have a child and your child wants to drive your car, and they're like, no, son, that'll kill you. You're not old enough. You're not mature enough. So now, because all the mental problems that I've had competing throughout the years, all of the problems that I was mentally going through, I'm so happy now that I didn't win the Mr. Olympia because,
Wow.
you know, like I've talked about before, throughout my whole career, I tried to commit suicide. I often tried to. And here I am only number 2. And I'm only making number 2 worthy amount of money. So I'm blowing through my money. I'm buying cars. I'm living recklessly because I don't believe that I'm going to live long. I just never thought that I would live long. So I'm living life like that. And so imagine me winning the Olympia title. I think that would have just gave me so much freedom and power that I probably would have actually succeeded in actually taking my life, because it was a struggle just being number 2 and being globally known for that. So, you know, again, I don't think I would have done the title justice. Yeah, maybe physique wise I was there, but mentally, what I was going through and the problems that I was dealing with mentally and stuff like that, nah, absolutely not. I was not ready for it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, all right, Kevin, you can I hit the next question?
You want me to continue? I'll continue.
No,
I'll continue.
Yeah.
Leading up to the 98 and you know, Olympia, you know, you and you know, Ronnie, you know, you and Kevin were like the top guys, you know, and you had, you know, Mr. Coleman, you know, at the bottom.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, the famous helping him in the hotel room, you know, with the whiskey and whatever else, you know.
Yeah, well, just tell for people who don't know, you got to tell that story. Like, I know Ronnie came to you guys and were like, I don't understand it. Why can't I place higher? And all of a sudden, you guys give him some kind of help, and then he just explodes. What tell us more about that?
Yeah. So, you know, me and Ronnie, we became friends when I was winning all the shows, and he was competing in all the shows, and I knew who he was, and I knew he actually had turned pro naturally, and I knew he was competing naturally. So, you know, as friends, he had just asked me like, damn, man, you know, you're winning all these shows. What are you doing? And I asked him, you know, what are you doing? He goes, I'm not doing nothing. I'm like, well, dude, you know, you got to get out, man. You know, you got to do this. You got to do that. So I told him what I was doing, and I actually introduced him to Chad Nichols, who was my coach at the time. And, you know, I told Chad, like, hey, Ronnie wants to work with you. And he's like, you know, I don't want to work with him. He doesn't have, you know, good physique or whatever. I'm like, come on, Chad, man. The guy's a cool guy, man. Why not? You know, he's going to pay you. You know, why not work with him? So him and Ronnie start working together, and the rest is history. I mean, you know, but regardless, I'm a pure competitor. I want, you know, even back when I was fighting in martial arts, I wanted a person to be at their 100% best when I competed against him. Therefore, there's no excuse. If he has an injury here, he can use that. So, you know, Ronnie's not the first person I told everything that I was doing, you know, but that was just dormant in Ronnie. It was just meant to happen. You know, it was just waiting to happen. And if you look at Ronnie's history, you know, competing naturally all his life, turning pro naturally, and then building the size that he had such a tremendous foundation that he had put on his physique already. So obviously when he started utilizing sports technology drugs, he just exploded. But I can't hold back information from a person and then compete against them and then say, I beat you. Because I know that it might have been something that would have made him better. So even looking back now, you know, I just, you know, I had Ronnie on my podcast just a week ago, and we talked about I don't regret it. You know, that was just meant to happen. It was probably going to happen one way or the other. You know,
did you expect him to become what he became?
Oh no!
I mean, like, did you have any idea he was going to end up on stage, 290 pounds shredded to the bone? I mean,
absolutely not. Absolutely not. I remember, he was mentioning, you know, in '98, Ronnie was nobody, and Kevin, you know, and I were the front leaders, and it was talked about that the show was mine because, you know, Dorian had retired, all that stuff. So, you know, and during prejudging, Ronnie was never even putting a call out against me. So I remember like Ronnie, posing on stage, and I'm standing behind him, and he's doing these poses, and I'm looking at his back, and I'm like, Jesus, man, this guy's back is more feathered than mine. But nobody never mentions his in the magazines. Why is that? And I'm staring at him, I'm like, good God Almighty, man. They're not acknowledging to this guy. And then ironically, we come back at the night show and he's compared against us, and, things happen the way they do. But nah, who could ever imagine that? I mean, all I can say is that I'm so proud to have competed and done fierce battle with the greatest Mr. Olympia of all times. I didn't get to stand on stage with Lee Haney. I didn't get to stand on stage with Arnold Schwarzenegger, but man, I stood on stage with Ronnie, and we got at it.
Yeah. But before I pass over to Eric, do you think back then, obviously the media put you in front, that you're the next guy to dominate the sport? Do you think if it was different, like they put somebody else, Ronnie, maybe saying, listen, this guy's going to win, do you think you would have changed your mentality a bit just to go in that much better, maybe just that little bit better? Do you think it would have affected you? Maybe
no, because as I've talked about before, I never believed in myself. I absolutely never believed in myself, so I never trained that way. Now, when it came to the Ironman, I was like, this is my house. You got to come take this from me.
Yeah.
And I was very comfortable with that. And I was very comfortable going into the honor class and saying, hey, you got to come beat me for this. But every time I ever walked into the Olympia, I just never believed that I could be number one. So I didn't train that way. And I remember 98, Mr. Olympia, we used to be put in various different rooms backstage, and we're laying there, and I'm laying in a room with some other guys who they're their first Mr. Olympia, and they just didn't have the ability to ever be in the top 10. And they're talking about how hard they trained and how they're going to win and all this. And I remember laying there thinking like, geez, man, how come I can't even believe in myself the way these guys believe in themselves? And I'm like, I screwed this up. I didn't train hard. I didn't put everything into it. I go, man, but I'm going to go out on stage and I'm going to pose hard and I'm going to go at it and try to give it the best I could. But I held back. I just didn't believe in myself. And I know, a lot of people have a mentality like you have to see it and you have to believe it for it to happen. But my whole career was like that. Even fighting, I just didn't believe in myself. I was a little bit more confident because I knew it's physical. And if I physically handle you, you're going to have to give into that. But I just, like I said, my mental issues and setbacks and stuff like that went very deep. And I just didn't have that much belief in myself. And like I said, I never, even thought that I would make it into my 20s. And when I did, I was like, oh, you're not going to make it into your 30s. And, here it is, 3 days, I'm going to be 6 years old. And I'm like, I just, looking back on it, I just wished I would have believed in myself and understood that, you have a shot just like everybody else do, but I just didn't. So those are some of the mental hangups that I just dealt with.
Yeah. I mean, before I pass on to Eric, listen, 33 pro shows, if I'm not mistaken, 17 wins, 10 second place. So you're always up there, Flex, always. And 4 Arnold Classic wins, USA, and 3 second places at the Olympia. I mean, not too many people can brag about that today, It's just incredible still. I mean,
yeah. Well, thank you. It's
for a guy that wasn't 100% sure of himself sometimes, that's pure talent and genetics and everything, so
no, when I look back on it now, I see that and I understand that, but the movie's over, so I get to see the whole movie and then give where as the movie's going on, you're not sure what's going to happen next. So like I said, some of the shows I'd win and I'd be terrified, like, wow, they're going to figure it out that I didn't deserve to win and come back and take the trophy away. But I truly believe things happen for a reason. It's the way I live my life. My faith is unbreakable. I've been through a lot, and I know that God allows certain people to go through certain things. And, I'm just at the point now, like whatever it is that you want me to go through, I'm okay with it. I just want to be okay. And I just want to be accepted by you. So, that's how I lived my life. So now as I look back on these things, no, they were meant to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And every good, bad, and ugly thing that I've been through, I wouldn't change it. A lot of times like, man, if I would have known now what I known back then, but no, that would have changed me as a person. So I'm purely the guy that's sitting here because of everything that I didn't do, and went through.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't change that at all.
Yeah.
Flex, I wasn't even going to go here actually with you, but actually I'm a student of psychology, and my degree is in psychology, and just some of the things you're saying makes me actually think that it would be valuable to actually talk about this. You're talking about how you didn't believe in yourself, that sometimes you would win a title and be like, are they going to take this away from me, and figure out that I didn't deserve it? Or I'm going into the Mr. Olympia, I can't win. I can never be that good. If you don't mind talking about it, and I don't want to make this negative. I want
No, it's all good.
Positive thing.
Good. Yeah.
What was it, do you think, or do you know, that made you lack this belief in, especially because you probably had the whole world saying to you, Flex, you're the best bodybuilder in the world.
Yeah.
Flex, covers of magazines, big contracts with companies. What do you think was the thing that held you back from having that belief in yourself? Because I believe very strongly in what you mentioned before, that it's not, you have to see it to believe it. I think you have to believe it to see it. And I think that having that faith and having that belief is what really creates greatness. I mean, you have to really believe in yourself. So you were creating greatness without it, but you might have even created even more. What was it that kept you from believing in yourself?
I mean, I had a really difficult childhood. Just growing up on government assistance, living in the ghetto. I was molested by two of my family members at the age of 5, and it happened various different times all the way until I was 16. So I just think it was like, just from those things, even now I look back and I like, how couldn't I not have allowed this to happen? And then I got to remember, how could a 5-year-old mind deal with an adult? I mean, it's not possible. But even still, I still think, like, how could I had not controlled that situation, not allowed it to happen? So I just think there was a lot of mental setbacks. I was dyslexic. Back then, they didn't know what dyslexia were. We were literally the people that they put like the dummy hat on and you sit in the corner. Mm-hmm. They didn't know what it was. I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand why I couldn't read well, why I couldn't comprehend well. Everything came extremely difficult. So there was a lot of negative setbacks. And I think, they just festered. I didn't talk about them. I was beat up my whole childhood, by bullies and stuff like that. Even though I was great in martial arts, I just had this mental block that I can't, I can't hurt a person, even though I would be literally getting beat up. I'm like, well, it doesn't hurt. Or I look at them like, if I kick them here, what if I break their ribs? Or what if I kick them in the head and they fall down? So those are my thoughts. So I think, there were just a lot of like negative seeds planted as in my childhood, and it just grew. It just grew. I didn't understand why these older women would want to sleep with like this kid. I was like, I don't get it. So it just warped my brain. And even like having relationships with women as I got older and had a good physique and was a little bit more confident about myself, I just thought, hey, that's just normal. You just sleep with people. You just sleep with women. Women took advantage of me in my childhood, so this is what I'm going to do to them. And even in fighting for a long time, I just didn't believe I could be number one. I would settle for number 2 and fight that way. And I remember it was when I turned 21, I ended up meeting a person. His name is Tyrell McGuire, and he just changed my whole mindset in fighting. And I became, actually the opposite, where I was this extremely dominant, extremely, violent in fighting. And, as I talked about before, that's when the kind of Flex Wheeler character was like set in motion. The Kenny Wheeler guy was scared, he was timid, but the Flex Wheeler guy, it was like my alter image. He would protect me. He was quick to get into it with you. He was cocky, he was arrogant, he was flamboyant, and I'm none of those things. But like I said, as a child, I learned that, people will learn your weaknesses and use them against you. So I started protecting myself, even on stage. At times where I would be arrogant or cocky, that's not what I was saying in my head. I'm like, let me, I'd walk out like this, like, yeah, let's fight. But really, I'm thinking like, oh my God, they're about to find out I'm not good enough. But I knew I couldn't project that image, or else they wouldn't see that. And again, like you said, it's possible that I might have done greater if I had more belief in myself. But again, I'm just, I'm kind of the opposite. I just believe that things happen for a reason, and we have the ability to to go against those things that are set to happen with us. I don't like to preach about it, but I'm not gonna hold back about just my faith. I understand that, my Father in heaven, he has a life planned out for me, but I have the ability to choose, and I can choose to go the opposite way. So, in short, the greatest and the worst thing about me was me. It was simply me. I was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was absolutely the worst thing that ever happened to me. I had so much self-doubt. You've been what you did for a living, you would understand this. All I would do constantly was speak negative things into myself. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, don't even try to do this. Oh, quit. So I would do that. And even now, like I said, having an image, about being able to go into the gym, I just sit there and I say all these negative things to myself. And next thing you know, it's in the evening. I'm like, oh, I'll try to go tomorrow. So I don't know why I'm wired that way. But I do understand now there's millions of people who are exactly like me or worse. They don't have a following. They weren't able to achieve anything that I did. So I'm like a spokesperson for them. So I talk about these things, and I'm honest about my setbacks and my shortcomings, because I know there's people around the world that just think they're the only one. They're the only one who's going through this. And, when people speak out and honest about what they go through, because, yeah, I get it. A lot of people will never achieve what I did. They'll never be able to do those things, so therefore I'm not human to them. But when I talk about being suicidal or depression or all of these things, now there's a common ground that we can discuss, and I'm just like them. And through maybe the things that I've done, maybe that might give them hope that, wow, he achieved this. So, maybe I should, try a little bit harder and believing in myself. So, yeah, I really don't know the deeper answer to that. But I just know I was the best thing and the worst thing that ever happened to me.
No, I think that I think the things you explained is the answer. I mean, I think that, you don't know how it circuited your brain, the things you went through, but it seems to me like that's what put you in that, in that space in your head. And it's funny because I can relate to you. I mean, and I don't want to compare my story to yours, but like, I know that I had a very hypercritical father. I still have, thank God he's still with us. And he never made me believe in anything that I was doing. Like he would always like, oh, you want to be a bodybuilder? You can't be a bodybuilder. You were too skinny. You're never gonna. Oh, you want to be a personal trainer? That's not a job. What do you want to wear sweatpants? Like he never believed in me, and he was always critical, and that made me like you, like in the sense of that I was like, could never believe in myself. I would always think I'm going to fail. I would always doubt myself, always.
Wow.
And it took me so long to overcome that, to have confidence in myself, or to even be proud of myself for what I have achieved.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm going to be 57, so I'm just right behind you. And to this day, there's still times where I have to fight those doubts.
Yeah.
When I start a new project, that old mindset starts to come in. Go, no, you can't do that. You can't be successful. So I have to still fight that. So I kind of really relate to what you're saying, which is why I wanted to delve into it with a little bit, because I think there's Kevin and I honestly discussed before the show that we didn't want to kind of get into this stuff. We wanted to stick to more the bodybuilding stuff. But actually, in talking to you, I think that what you said is true. There's so many people out there
Yeah,
that suffer from this for different kinds of reasons.
yeah,
And it's when you hear a Flex Wheeler, one of the, legends in the sport, talk about it. I think it's something that can really help people, and maybe
yeah,
look at themselves and realize, maybe I can be successful, or maybe I
yeah,
can, which I think is really, really important.
yeah,
But it's so interesting with you, because I think that when I'm listening to you, how you were saying, like, you have to take the Ironman trophy away from you. You have to take the Arnold Classic. But when you go into the Olympia, which
yeah,
means you're the best bodybuilder in the world, it seems like you are more comfortable being second best than the
yeah,
best.
yeah,
Being
yeah,
the best is too much pressure.
yeah,
Being
yeah,
second best, you can stay there. But as
yeah.
long so it's almost like a fear of success rather
Yeah,
than a
and
fear of
I
failure.
mean, there was always, like in Go's Gym, with all the great athletes, and not just bodybuilding. I mean, you
Yeah.
had Olympic athletes. You every NBA game, the stars came to Go's Gym. So
Yeah.
you just seen
Wow.
everybody.
Yeah.
So everybody would always talk about how great I looked or my physique and all that. So it was always all these praises, and
Yeah.
for some people that might inspire them. For me, it was just so much pressure.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it, so I would break under those pressures. But like you said, in certain shows, I'm like, you got to come and get this. Is one thing I did know. It's like I don't believe that I'm going to win, but it's not going to be because of lack of trying. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to bust my butt every time I go into the gym. I'm going to try to destroy the gym. I'm going to train as hard as I can. So if I lose, it's not going to be because I gave up, but then mentally I would do certain things like break on my diet or,
Yeah.
Right.
like I said before, I would dress a certain type of attire that was gym attire, but also I can go into the club or go into a strip club afterward without have to change it. So those things are not the mind frame of a champion. There's been a few shows where I was just completely locked in. I didn't break my diet. I stayed into it. And other times the pressure would be just so overwhelming. I would just crack and fracture and break in various different ways.
Yeah, well, it's like a self-sabotage mechanism that you had a
Yeah.
little bit.
100%, 100%.
I I was gonna ask you about how it felt training back then at Gold's Gym when it was at its, peak, Chris Cormier and you were
Yeah,
there and,
yeah,
so many legends, and now
yeah.
you just explained it saying that, it,
It
it
was
wasn't,
it was it was it was amazing. You had all the top A-lister actors and
yeah,
actresses,
yeah,
and
everybody.
I would walk into the gym and be like, "Wow, that's so and so from that movie." But
Yeah,
unlike now, there was absolutely no attitude.
yeah,
It's almost like once you walk through Go's Gyms, whatever your superpower was, it was just gone. You're just a normal person. And we all responded to people in normal, different ways and stuff like that.
yeah,
It was amazing. I mean, my training partners was Chris Cormier and Rico, and we were just
yeah,
inseparable. We were all
yeah,
strong in our various different ways, and we believed that we ran Go's Gym. If anybody came here who wanted to outlift us, like, man, you have to come up against us.
yeah,
We holding it down like that, but
yeah,
it was amazing. Seeing Olympic gold medalists, seeing boxers
yeah,
and just actors and movies and stuff like that. It was
yeah,
yeah. I don't think those times will ever be repeated where you can come into one place. I mean, literally different countries would have like buses. I remember Japan and China would always these big buses that would pull up and they would
I
just
would
come.
see that too when I was there. Oh my God. And I
Yes,
was after you. Big buses, and all of a sudden you
yeah,
see this whole crowd of Asians get off the bus like with cameras.
yeah,
It's
yes,
hilarious.
yeah. And it was like they would walk in and just back then they had a railing where you couldn't come through, but they would sit there and just take pictures or wait till you're done
yeah,
training and
yeah,
want to take pictures with you. But it was just such a magnetic
yeah,
energy and time. Just like, I mean, I feel sorry for anybody who's competing in bodybuilding now because they'll never have the opportunity of walking into the Weider building and
exactly.
walking up those stairs and meeting Joe, having to sit
Yeah,
outside those massive double doors
yeah,
and wait for his assistant to come and say, "Okay, Joe, I'll see you now." And just experience him talking to you and
yeah,
his enthusiasm and love for the sport. They'll never see that. So it's kind of sad because I think,
people,
you know, I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Some people don't even know who he is. You know, they just know the name. Yeah, they don't know the history.
yeah.
Talking about the golds again, when you say you were with Chris and the other guy,
Rico,
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 Rico.
you were
yeah.
on Dennis's show, and Dennis was talking about when he went into the gym as a new guy, and you three were looking at him like, "Who the hell is this kid?" You know?
Yeah, oh yeah, man. You had to pass our test. I mean, if you came in, if you came in and you're a bodybuilder, immediately we would notice you and we'd eyeball you and stuff like that. And just,
Yeah.
back in our days, we'd like pull up your skirt and see what type of underwear you got on. So we really just look through a person. And, some people we just accepted immediately and some, we didn't. And yeah, it was highly competitive back then
Wow.
as far
Even
as
training. Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, highly competitive, highly.
Flex to piggyback off of this Gold's Gym stuff. I don't think the talk would be complete on that if we don't talk about Charles a little bit. So I mean, obviously everybody knows Charles. I used to talk to
Yeah.
Charles all the time when I was there. So when did you start? How did you hook up with Charles at first in terms of him starting to work with you? And when about was that in your career?
So it was 1990. I came down to Ghost Gym and I won the Mr. California in 1989. So in 1990, I'd actually came down to Ghost Gym and I can't think of the name of the guy who introduced me to Charles. And I was going to do the nationals and they were trying to help me how to figure out how to do it naturally, but still be on certain things that I could pass a test on. So Charles kind of assisted me with that and gave me some instructions. And then I went back home and obviously I placed fifth in my first national show back in 1990. And then I think it was 91 where I actually moved to Los Angeles and started training there and just, I remember Charles, I met him, we talked and he just agreed to train me. And it was never about money. He didn't ask for money. So he started training me, just every day. And, I started winning shows. And back then, Charles used to train with me. Like that's my first video that ESPN had shot for me, my first training video. So back then, Charles was still in great shape. He would train with us. And then Rico joined training with me and Chris joined training with me. And we started getting so strong and Charles would just start getting injured. And then it just got to the point where he would just help us and assist us with weight and became more of the trainer. So that's kind of that's Rico, man.
That's Rico, yeah.
Yeah, that's big Rico. Everybody thought I was like the leader of our crew because I was more flamboyant. I was more, excited. I was a flashy guy. I was winning shows before they did. But Rico was truly the leader, man. He was always just so solid, so mature. He was truly the leader of our crew.
Rico's a great guy. Rico's such a great guy. I love him.
Amazing, absolutely amazing.
He would keep you guys in line, I think, if I remember the interview.
Yeah, me and Chris were kind of more hot-headed. We would get at it. We'd go at it with each other.
Yeah.
Remember, me and Chris had got into an argument while we were training, and he threw this 190-pound dumbbell at me. I got up and I started running towards him, and Rico got in the middle. Was like, "Hey, man, we're not doing this. You guys are not fighting."
Wow.
And he would just settle us down. And there's times where Rico would just be blunt, like, "Flex, man, you're off. You need to train harder."
Yeah, that's harder. What I remember. Yeah.
And I would get so pissed, I'd turn around and I'd want to fight him. And he would just look at me and turn his back to me and be like, "I don't fight my friends." And he would turn around and walk away. And that's such a mature thing to do. I mean, especially at our age back then, especially when we're just full of testosterone and youth. He was so mature that he was a true friend. He's like, "I don't fight my friends," and just turned his back on me. Where if that was me and Chris, we would just go at it. We would just get into it.
Thank God for Rico, man.
Oh, man.
Right?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And it's a shame that Rico never turned pro because I know he wanted to. So.
Oh, because he loved bodybuilding more than me and Chris put together. I mean, he loved training. He loved dieting. And, he started like doing commercials and stuff like that. And I went to a few commercial tryouts with him. And he would always get the commercials over me. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm more well-known. I look better. My physique is better. How is it? But And I remember after him competing a few times, it was so hard to tell him this, but I was like, Reed, I go, maybe this bodybuilding thing isn't cut out for you, man. I think this acting thing, is what you meant to do. And he got so mad. It's like, man, I love this, man. How could you say that? But that's what ended up happening. He ended up soaring and being as an actor and getting so many different roles in acting, and actually started writing script and directing, and stuff like that. And we talk about it now. And it's like, yeah, you were right, but I just love bodybuilding so much. And still, he shows up in the gym every day. He's in there every day doing cardio and boxing and stuff like that. Yeah, Rico is an amazing young man, amazing father.
So with Charles, I was just curious, like, to hear you say, like, what was for you, what was the magic of Charles? Was it his attitude? Was it the different angles he would use? Like, what was it about him that made him a great trainer for you?
Yeah, so I mean, for one, I had so much respect for him. I would run through a brick wall if he said do it. I would do it. So I had so much respect for him. And then he started like creating these different angles and ways of doing these various different things. And I was always the type of guy that if I had a trainer and I believed in him and I could be brutally honest, and so like Kenny Wheeler and all my faults, I would just believe in it and go for it. So he would just be able to push me harder than I could ever push myself. And his self-belief in myself, I would fuel myself off of just his belief and everything. And, like I say, he started creating these various different movements and these angles and different ways that he wanted us to contort our body and stuff like that. And, I just believed in it. But, I knew he was as a competitor. And like I said, when I got to the Gold's Gym, he still had an amazing physique. So I was just, so honored that he took me on. I think I was one of his first athletes, bodybuilders who had done that well. So we were both learning with each other. And he wasn't pushy. Like if he wanted me to do a certain move, I'm like, I'm not really feeling that. And he'd be like, okay, well, let's try this then. It wasn't like, no, we got to do this. I know everything, you don't, but yeah, he was just at the very beginning of me just learning who I was. I mean, I was honest with him. He was almost like my psychiatrist because I would tell him my problems. I mean, he would give me loans. I want to go and buy a car, and he would loan me the money, and I would pay him back after on his show. He was absolutely amazing. I remember when I bought my house. Ed Connors had this house. It was a duplex, and one part was just a studio, and then the other part was a 7-story house. He's like, "Hey, Flex, I see you doing all of these things with your money. Are you buying? And do you have a home?" I'm like, "No. How do I do that?" He goes, "Listen, I'm gonna help you out. You're gonna make your payments directly, so they'll see your check. I'll give you the 7-story part. I'll own the studio." And I was like, "Wow, really?" And I remember I needed a down payment to give to Ed, and Charles is the one who lended that to me.
Wow.
Then after I won my next show, I paid him back for that. But yeah, he was just so helpful in so many personal ways. I personally went through so many obstacles with him, and I was always just really honest. For one, he was just a person I couldn't lie to. I couldn't front. I just had too much respect for him. So just him understanding my weaknesses and never used them against me, and always like, oh well, let's work this way, or let's get it done this way, or whatever. So yeah, he was absolutely amazing. So he wasn't just a trainer to me; he was a mentor. He was somebody I looked up to. Yeah. Just learning about him and what he had done before competing, and gymnastics and stuff like that. I was like, wait a minute, what? And he came from a time back where gangs were really big time, and he just wasn't a part of that. So I just had so much respect for him in so many different ways.
Wow. Do you still have a relationship with him today?
Yeah, I do. I know he's had some serious health problems.
Really?
He's not the best at texting. I'll text him, he'll text back like 2 or 3 weeks later. He's not the best at texting, but yeah, definitely.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Wow.
Okay, Kevin.
Basically, Flex answered everything. What I had everything planned to ask him, but he answered
I got more,
while he was speaking.
You don't.
He just did the show for us. I mean, that thing of the Gold's Gym for me at that era was it's magical. When you see footage today, it's like but when you see the footage of you guys in there, training and that famous posing section, you know, where the
Oh
light,
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
that posing
Yeah.
room and that
everybody's
light,
looking
that
at the
lighting, that
side, you
natural
know.
Oh
lighting.
yeah. Yeah. We
Yeah,
used to call it the steroid mirror because the light
yeah.
came down on it. And I think Ghost Gym was one of the first that actually had a posing room, and that was just tremendous for us to be able to go into a room, and it had mirrors set up where you can stand and just right in the middle, and you can look up or look to the
Yeah.
side,
Yeah,
Yeah.
completely see your body. So
yeah,
that was something that we used tremendously in just learning how to pose and stuff like
yeah,
that, and just,
yeah,
being able to go into transitions and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, you know, it's a like I said, it was a magical era, you know. I don't think it will ever happen again. And even with the guys helping you out, you know, like you said, you know, even just to give you that push, maybe you had the means to do it, but you didn't know how to do it. And these
Yeah,
guys listen, you're doing all these shows, you know, the money comes and goes, so it's better you know, start building your life, you know, because
yeah,
people think bodybuilders are there forever. There's only a certain window that you can be at the top, as you know, and as everybody else knows, you know. Then you start falling down the ladder, and the money doesn't come in anymore. Then it's a
yeah,
struggle, you know.
yeah.
Um,
No, and I struggle with that. I mean, I end up having to leave the sport, like right when I was hitting my stride, just because of
yeah,
health problems. I found out that I had this rare kidney disease, and
yeah,
I remember them telling me about it, and I'm like, that's hard to believe. And they literally had told me, this is going to be your life. You won't make it out of your 30s without having kidney failure. You won't make it. You won't live, past your 40s without a kidney transplant. And I think I was right around 39 or 38 at the time. And I just like, how could you say this? Look at me. I'm basically a demigod. I feel, ultra
yeah,
strong, but
yeah,
those things, end up ending my career. So I still thought that way. I still thought that bodybuilding was going to last forever. I still thought that I had like at least 5 or 10 more years, into the sport. So you're right, and I think that's for all athletes. We just don't believe that it's ever going to end. And it always, Father Time is unbeatable.
yeah, yeah. I mean, um, leading into to the next thing, Eric, I'm gonna ask him about what we had discussed with Lee Haney. With Lee Haney started it actually,
Well,
and
before we get into that, let me ask him
okay,
one thing, then
yeah,
we'll jump to that.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, Flex, you and I actually discussed this. I discussed this with you in the gym in Dragon's Lair one day because I was really curious, but I think it'd be a cool thing for the audience to know. I asked you, I said, obviously you had so many amazing contests and, so many wins and second places, whatever, but you had kind of different looks throughout your career.
ah, yeah,
Yeah,
You had a look where you were lighter, shredded
yeah,
to the bone, looks where
yeah,
you were fuller, whatever. And I asked you, what was your personal favorite look? What contest or year was when you looked at yourself, you're like, this is me at my best. What was that for
yeah,
you?
yeah. That was 1999 at the English Grand Prix. That was like I said, even when Ronnie was winning, we were still incredibly close. He would come to my house and stay at my house, getting ready for Olympia.
wow,
We talked all the time, and at the English Grand Prix, actually it was him because I wasn't able to peak, and Ronnie had called me into his room the night before. He's like, "Man, what are you doing?" And I told him. He goes, "What are you doing for diuretics?" And I was still doing the old time aldactone, and diazide. And he's like, "No, man." He goes, "Here, take this." I'm like, "What is it?" He goes, "You trust me?" And I looked, I'm like, "Yeah, I trust you." He goes, "Just take it, man. Just take it. Just take it. Go to the room and take it." I don't know what it is at this point because it was just one pill. I think it was probably Lasix now, but I remember like taking my diuretics, I would lose like 10 to 15 pounds overnight. It would just rip water out of me. And I remember like whatever it was he gave me, I only peed like maybe 6 times. But what I noticed is it was like my skin got tighter and almost like saran wrap around the muscles instead of the muscles depleting.
Yeah.
And the next day we were doing we would weigh ourselves, at the show. So that was the first time me and Ronnie made the same weight. He was 257 and I was 257. And we
wow,
had done pre-judging and we're sitting backstage because at the Grand Prix shows, you would do the pre-judging, you would sit backstage, and then you would immediately do the night show. So after that, his girlfriend at the time that ran backstage, Vicky, And she was like, Ronnie, Flex is whooping your ass. And he was like, I know. And I go, man, we both know it don't matter. You know, you're going to win. You know, that's just the way it is. He goes, well, just know that I know. But yeah, that was at my fullest. I was striated everywhere. My glutes ran pretty good. And yeah, I just still feel that was my best look. If that wasn't it, then it would be 98, the Arnold Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I think when you won the first Arnold Classic in 93, you were maybe 216, 18, something like that. 216, so you're literally 41 pounds more at your favorite look. That's incredible.
Yeah. And you know what? I mean, I don't know. My point of view is this, because I've gotten asked that a lot of times. I just think the 93 version of me wouldn't been able to stand up with just the muscle mass. It was so much so it was the exact same physique with the waistline and everything else like that, with that much more muscle, and being lean as I was at that bigger size. I just don't think not the 98 Olympia. I was off on that. At the week later I was on even better, but I just don't think I would have just been too small standing up against that other version of myself.
Yeah. So just before, I know there's a very important question Kevin wants to ask, which I'm curious about too, but I like to also ask, because I think people are curious about this. Did you have any, I mean, I know you were being coached, but did you have any specific way of peaking before, let's say the week, we could call it peak week, peaking that worked best for you in terms of the carb depletion, carb loading, water soaking?
Yeah.
What worked best for you to bring you on stage at your best? Do you know? Because it probably changes all the time.
I had to go zero carbs. I just, I had a lot of round muscle bellies, but you also understand that's more water in those muscle bellies. And like, I was just always so incredibly full. I remember guys like, man, it's like you're puking up muscle. You're so full. So I would literally have to go like almost a month on zero carbs.
Really?
And then like, I remember, Chad would come in and look at me like that Thursday. And he'd be like, all right, you can have one spoonful of oatmeal, and I'd have a spoonful of oatmeal. And I would literally, I was so, I guess you would call it carb sensitive. I'd immediately start filling back up over that. So, yeah. And I know, like even Ronnie try to do the same type of diet, and Ronnie couldn't handle it. I think his lowest that he could go would be like 300 carbs, or else he would get hyperglycemic. And I heard of other people trying to go zero carbs, and they'd damn near pass out on stage. It is a very dangerous way of dieting, because you can easily go hyperglycemic. But I just had, I would eat filet mignon, 6 times a day, 12 ounces. And then I would have peanut butter, and I would literally just fill out so much on just peanut butter. I would literally start spilling over just on eating peanut butter. But yeah, I was just different. It was just different, man.
Wow. So you were like your body reacted better to basically higher fats than it did to carbs.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, that's interesting. I can't say that there's too many. Most people would just flatten out, because there's no carbohydrates in the muscle, but you were just a different animal.
Yeah. No.
And what would you do with water? What would you do with water the final week?
So what we would normally do is like, we kind of understood, like, the body will figure things out and then try to counter it, whatever drug you put in it, whatever diuretic. You had a certain amount of time. So we kind of understood. I had almost like 24 hours before I would start countering it and holding water. So I would cut my water out 24 hours before. Back then, we cut our sodium out Wednesday. That Wednesday, we would go zero sodium. We were so extreme. I wouldn't even brush my teeth because I know it had so much sodium in it.
Isn't that funny? People do that, yeah. It's so funny. I remember I was doing that for my first few shows too. That's why I was like, can't brush my teeth.
Yeah. So we would cut the sodium out that Wednesday. We would cut the water out that 24 hours out. So that Friday, if it was a Saturday show, and and just let it rip from there.
Wow, I can't believe how full you would end up on stage without any real carbs. And even the morning of the show, no carbs, but still went with protein fats, or
no. So actually, I mean, to be brutally honest about it, it was 98 the first time that we tried insulin. That's when insulin got really big. So 98, Arnold Classic, we tried insulin, and I would go 0 carbs for a month. And then he had this concoction where we would take, like if you were making a peach pie, the peach filling, and we would mix it up into oatmeal. And I forgot how much insulin he would give me, but it would always be just one run where people would do multiple runs. It would only take me one, and I would just like start spilling over at muscle, and then we'd have to pull all the carbs back out and go into it. So no matter what, I had to go into the show on 0 carbs, or else I'd spill over.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're an original, my friend.
It wasn't something that we couldn't do the same thing every show.
Sure.
Because my body was always different. I remember, we talk about it a lot, and I remember Rico and Chris and Charles got extremely angry with Charles with Chad, but it was a 2000 Olympia, and I just locked in, man. I locked in on my diet, and I'll always be off when I would see Chad, and he'd always like, God, I got to work my magic. But when he seen me, I was in contest shape. I had striated glutes already. I think it was like 240 something pounds. And he was like, my God, man, what did you do? And I was like, man, I just stayed locked in. So we did the original things, pull off the carbs to put it back in. And, I end up, being flat because we just couldn't I just couldn't fill back out. But we never could do the same thing. It would always be based on what I would look like when he would see me that Thursday.
Wow.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, the body, I mean, as a coach, and I'm sure you know this too, every time you prepare the same guy for a show, something else works different than the time before. So, I mean, everybody's constantly changing. Bodies wants different things, and you have to base it off what they're looking like. So,
yeah, definitely.
That's cool, though. So, hey, everybody out there who just heard Flex's peaking process, you might not want to follow it because I don't know if that's going to work for you.
No, and that's why I'm so careful about. I don't talk about, my drug protocols, and I don't talk about my diuretic protocols. And I was the first time talking about my insulin because, I mean, I know that people like, well, if he did it, I'm going to do it, and I'll look the same way he did, or if I do a little bit more. So I'm really careful with that. I know the power of what some of us say, and people are going to go out and try those things. But, that's what I did. But no, like I said, he tried to do that to Ronnie and 0 carbs, and Ronnie almost passed out. He called like, man, I can't handle this. So I think Ronnie's lowest carbs, like his 0 carbs would be like 400. And that would be my highest. I mean, I could never even go up to 400, even on filling out on off season. I would balloon up, man. I'd look like a Pillsbury Doughboy. But even though, and weirdly, it was mostly water because I would never go over, I think 2% body fat. I would just stay there. I would just hover around. So it was always a fluctuation of water. I remember going into the posing room. Like I said, we'd go into the posing room 5 weeks out before a show, and we'd pose an hour, and it would just, the entire floor would just be flooded of water. Wow. And I remember Chris and Rico looking at me like, how could you lose that much water and still be so full? Why aren't you dry? Anybody else would lose that amount of water, it would start drying out, but I would still just be puking up muscle and water. So it was really different. Yeah, it was really different.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, that's definitely an interesting story, but very very unique. I know, like when I've talked to Jay Cutler, like before, he'd be eating like 1,500 grams of carbs to carb up before a show, and he would, that's what he needed. And it's nuts the way it varies between person to person.
Yeah.
But I think that you're definitely an original, somebody who go a month without carbs and still be. Most people would just pass out. I mean, you thrived on it. So that's
so there's a lot of videos of me, like the video you guys just showed of me training with Charles when I was doing a pull down. That was on 0 carbs, and that's how full I was. Wow. That was on 0 carbs, and I was right around 250 pounds. And I would just thrive in it. It would be hard for like a week, but I had my thing, my filet mignon and my ketchup and my peanut butter, and I would just be happy. My mouth would just be salivating, waiting to eat it,
Yeah. Well, it is interesting though, because a lot of people make a mistake, because even people who will use some carb depletion, a lot of times they don't add in the extra fats, which is a huge mistake. Just try to eat protein. You still have to have that energy source. And if you can keep the fats in, and replace the carbs with fats, you'll still remain full and still have some energy. A lot of people try to go just straight protein, and that's the big mistake. So you knew you had to have the peanut butter to still allow you to have energy and to stay full.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I honestly, like, I was just a creature of habit. Whatever they said, I would do. I wouldn't question. I didn't understand why Chad would put in peanut butter. I just thought he was helping me out because it would just taste so good. You know, I thought it was just like a reward. But, you know, we never had, you know, cheat days or anything like that. And I remember, like, when I started coaching, you know, my athletes, can I have a cheat day? And I'm like, no.
I know this for a fact.
You know, what good of cheating? What comes good from cheating? Just that word alone, cheating. And I was like, you can have a reward day because you've been doing great and we're ahead of time. But, you know, you can't have a cheat day. There's nothing, even just that the word cheat has to identify to all things negative. So I just cut that out and kind of just changed it around. Like, no, you can have a reward day, but there is no cheat days. There's no cheating in this, man. What are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like I tell my clients, there's no such thing as off season. I call it progress season.
Oh,
because you're never off if you're a bodybuilder. This is when you're making progress. So that's going to call it progress season. Stop with this off season.
Yes, 100%, especially bodybuilding, because, you know, as a pro, the first show is in February and the last show is like in, you know, November. So when is there time to do off season? So you're just always progressing. You're always trying to make progress, unlike other sports where it's seasonal and they can just go out and party and have a great time. And then they go into camp and then they go into training. So we didn't have that, you know, and I consider bodybuilding the birth of all other sports. And here's my reason why. Everyone comes into the gym to get better, regardless what sport they are. Yeah. Even actors and actresses come into our world to get better. You have so many other athletes. They'll do our poses on stage, like Usain Bolt's doing his pose, you know, and boxing, everybody do a double bicep pose, you know, and you have some guys doing a crab pose. When we win, we don't do like a Jordan shot. We don't do
No, you're right.
You know, so they have to come into our world to get better. I don't have to go out and sprint as a bodybuilder. I'd actually be counterproductive and very hard on my knees and my back. But they have to come into our world to get better. So now, you know, when I started thinking about that, I was like, so why isn't our sport at the pinnacle on TV and a pay that every other sport is? Because they have to come into our world. Our place is a birthplace. But I think it's just, you know, at the end of the day, it's education, and you just have to have a used, you know, machine behind it. NFL wasn't that great when it first started out, but people start broadcasting it, start talking about it, being positive. They never put down the athletes. I remember, you know, obviously now understanding, you know, they were all using some type of a sports enhancement, but back then the commentators knew that, but they would just say, hey man, they're just, you know, they're all averaging like 290 pounds with, you know, 26-inch necks. They're just some good old country fed boys.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No, they weren't. Are you kidding?
They weren't.
But they didn't talk the sport down. They didn't bring the sport down and all that stuff. Obviously, times are different now. But yeah, I just always wondered why we never made it to that, to that pinnacle that other sports are, when they literally have to come and do what we do to get better.
100%. We're like weight training is like the foundation of every sport. And then, of course, even for things like you said, entertainment industry, everybody wants to look better. How do you do it? You get to the gym. So it's,
even if you don't, you just want to just have a better lifestyle. You have to come into our world and do some type of calisthenics. I mean, just getting older, doctors, they tell you, and I've done so much research now that, you know, one of the major things that happen when we get older is we lose our lower body strength. Our legs start to dwindle around, and you know, so I have a lot of my athletes who are older now. I have them doing a lot of leg workouts, because that's all your capillaries and everything goes through your legs. So that when those get weak, that foundation get weak, blood supply get weak. So that's also a true foundation of just being stronger and healthier, just having lower body strength.
Yeah, and bone density. You can't build bone density without resistance training. So I mean, it really is, when you think about weight training, covers just everything in terms of health, fitness, looking better, feeling better. It's amazing. But
it's a true fountain of youth. It's not in a bottle. It's not in a needle.
People tell
me, a true fountain of youth.
when people tell me, I'll tell them my age and they'll be like, no way, let me see your license. They'll be like, you can't be more than 40. And they'll be like, how do you do it? And I say, I'm in the gym. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm in the gym and I eat right, and that's what does it.
Yeah.
There's no other reason,
Yeah,
so it really is truly the fountain of youth. There's no doubt about it.
yeah,
And maybe, well, you, like I said, you still look, even though I need to get you into the gym more.
bro. I know.
I'm gonna come get you. I'm gonna bring you. But
I
but
believe
yeah,
you
you
so
look great.
much that I won't even give you my address because I know you'd be knocking on my door.
I'd be, well, you said you wanted a ride in the new car, bro. So I'll give you a new
Oh,
ride today.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Kevin. I know you wanted to talk about the Lee Haney stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, continuing from this of the television of media and stuff. I mean, Flex, I know you're a bit older than me. You remember on the Wild World of Sports, they used to do bodybuilding. I mean,
yes.
I remember
Yeah,
it when I was, 12, 13, 14. I remember
yes.
watching it. That's where I got,
Yeah.
the couples, the mixed pairs and all these things. They used to do
Yeah.
everything, but
Yeah.
some, the bad press sometimes that bodybuilding gets and things like that, they just threw to the side. And unfortunately, I think, the WBF, he tried to do it, Jim
Yeah.
McMahon, but it didn't work out because he got attacked as well. So, it's like something that still has to be worked on. So moving on to, I'm sure you heard what Lee Haney said uh, about bodybuilding needs to be redirected. It has to be, it has to change basically, like the direction it's going. Health wise, bringing back posing, the comparisons. Everything has to be back. Like we have to take a step back to improve in the future. Do you agree with him? Like, like he's getting lots of people agree with him. Some are scared to go against him because he is Lee Haney, right? And but I understand this point that bodybuilding has to be reset a bit, slightly. The physiques have to be a bit more. They can't just we just cannot have freaks on stage. We have to have guys like your physique, Kevin's, Sean Ray. But then I understand freaks bring in the crowds.
Yeah.
I don't want to mention any names, but uh, how do you see it? Do you think that the judges have to control the sport a bit better? Maybe push them in the right direction because it's the judges basically.
Yeah. No, I've always said, like, I came up with there being a Miss Olympia,
Yeah,
and the women started getting more and more aggressive. But I always thought, well, you have to control the national winner. You have to pick
yeah,
that look, because if you pick a national winner and then you have them all these national winners on stage, you're like, oh my God, what is this? You have to control that at the lower level. So I remember, having this conversation with Jim Mannion quite a few times, about that. But he's like, how do we do that? We can't control the coaches. We can't control what the athletes do. We have no control over that. And even when, more athletes started, passing away, they're like, how can we, that's outside of us what they do. They just come on stage. So I do, think, I'm from the old times. So I do think there's a certain physique that should be a Mr. Olympia physique, and anything that doesn't look like that needs to be judged down.
yeah,
I know now that you have guys who are like 212, competitors who are actually Mr. Olympias now. And I just feel that the bigger guys, they failed. They didn't do their job, or else, like even Sean said, he was like my worst, person that would talk about me. But after we retired, he gave his analogy of why that. He goes, I knew I never could beat him. He had everything that I had, and he's 4 or 5 inches taller and about 30 or 40 pounds bigger. How can I compete against my better version of myself?
yeah,
So I think the smaller guys are winning because the taller guys with better shapes aren't doing their jobs. They're not coming in the type of condition that they should be, or else that shouldn't happen. I mean, yeah, I don't feel that it's possible that you can have a guy that's a certain height, a certain weight, be able to defeat a guy who's 7 inches taller than him with a smaller waist and a more V taper. What happened there? You know, that bigger guy opened that door and allowed that. Now seeing that, yeah, the guy who's 212, he's on it. He's doing his job. He's pulling out all the stops. So you can't not reward him if he is the best on stage. So again, what do? This is what the Olympia has. These are the guys that are on stage. Now I have to judge accordingly. So it's a double-edged sword.
Like, I mean, Samson Dauda, when you see him, he has everything.
Yes.
Size, he's tall, he has the V taper, he has everything. But then you get a guy like Hadi Chupan, which is half his size.
Yeah.
But then he comes in rock hard.
Yeah.
And then they say that's maybe Samson's weak point, where he might not come in shredded. You know, we still didn't see him at his best yet, even though he won the Olympia. He slipped at the Arnold Classic with Derek. So, you know, like Lee Haney is saying, like, do like some of the athletes have to be like so rock hard? Like, you know, there was Cedric, you know, he was never, but he's got a beautiful physique. So should they look at that beautiful physique without it being so?
Yeah, I always thought that, because, you know, like when I was competing against Dorian, they were always like, he's bigger and he's harder than you.
Yeah.
I'd always be like, yeah, but I'm more symmetrical. I have a smaller waist. So how do you, which one is more important? So, and it would be like, well, those are your natural attributes to have a smaller waist and your shape. And I'm like, yeah, but that's his natural attribute. He's naturally harder and more muscular than I am. So, you know, it's whichever they give weight to. I mean, you know, back before I started competing, you have guys like Labrada and Gaspari who could win. It was truly whoever was the best person on stage can do that. But, you know, and even like, you know, when I started competing against Ronnie, it's like, it's glutes. You know, when you turn around, you know, I remember them always saying shows a one from the back. And I'm like, why is that more percentage than the front? Yeah, I don't get it. What about the side? You know, is that the only class that he beat me in is from the rear? What about all the rest of the poses? So I never really understood that. I never really got that. But I don't, and I'll say this. I remember in '93, after I won the Arnold, and they were like, you know, if you're going to beat Dorian, you better be harder than that. And I still remember the exact judge who said that to me. And even as an immature kid who didn't know anything, I looked at him, I said, if I'm harder than that, I'm going to be in my grade. That's the only way I'm going to be harder than I was in '93 is I'm going to be dead. You know, so I don't think you should put so much weight on that. It should be a balance.
Yeah, that's
and, you know, it definitely seemed that there's not the same type of balance that it used to be. Things have changed so much, like even just the posing criteria and how they judge now is so different than it was before. I don't really understand that. But again, if a 212 guy comes in and he does his job and a taller, bigger guy, you know, don't do their job, then what do? You have to judge what's there. You can't say, well, this guy, you know, he actually has a better foundation. You know, we should give him more weight to that. You do have to give, you know, credit to a person who outworks you and does their job better. But there has to be a balance. And, you know, going forward, if we want this sport to grow, we have to do things and able to pull in a wider variety of people. We can't just have, you know, bodybuilders only, you know, watching our sport. You know, any other sport, I don't play golf, but I'll sit there and I'll watch it sometimes. I don't play tennis, but I'll watch that. So if we really want our sport to grow, we need to figure out how do we inspire just a regular person to come in and sit and watch our show, to pay and watch our show. You know, we have to figure that out.
Yeah. I mean, to end this part off, they used Keon Pearson as an example because they keep saying he should go to the open class.
No.
And not what I'm getting to is they keep saying, oh, if he adds 20 more pounds. And Lee Haney says, why should he add 20 more pounds when he already looks perfect? I mean, he already can, if they look at size, symmetry, and condition, Keon's perfect. You can't touch him at the moment. Pound for pound, I think I mean, Eric agrees with me. He's the best bodybuilder in the world at the moment. So if he adds that weight, it's going to throw him off.
Yeah.
You know?
He'll make the mistake that I did. I mean, you know, you chase the leader because he has the look that's winning.
Yeah.
And, I was 216 when I won the Arnold, but I knew Dorian was bigger. So I thought I had to get bigger. And then Ronnie came and Ronnie was bigger. So I'm like, I thought I had to get bigger, not understanding that. And that's normally what happens as an athlete. You get better in time.
Yeah.
For me, now I understand my first competition I ever did as far as the Arnold Classic, I was at close to my best. I didn't have to get bigger. All I had to do is just refine and add a little bit of size and fullness where, I just thought I needed to get bigger. So, I mean, I had the honor of working with Keon before anybody knew him, back when he was natural.
Yeah.
We actually tested him and he actually, proved that he was natural.
Yeah, I remember that.
My God. And I was like, and then I remember when he started training with a certain person and using drugs and, we had a little fallout and we made up and we were talking. I'm like, son, you won't be able to compete in, that 212 forever. You're just going to grow out of that. And now, I mean, I see him in the gym and every time I just shake my head because I couldn't never even mentally imagine that he would look the way he does now. I mean, just his size, his fullness, his shape, but he is so locked in. And I tell him all the time, I'm like, listen, man, enjoy the journey. Yeah. Just don't just enjoy the hunt of a show, enjoy all of it. He goes, I do, big bro. I enjoy all of it. I enjoy the training, the diet and all that. I go, just embrace all that. But he is absolutely insane. And I truly believe that he wouldn't have to put on more size if he wanted to go into the open. He has that size, but like he said, I want to create a legacy. I want to break the 212 record. I want to create a legacy. And then maybe I'll think about that. And I'm like, man, you're so much more wiser, in your age, and just your youth of being as a bodybuilder. You're so much more wiser than a lot of us are. But no, he doesn't need to go up. He's amazing as he is now. And the guy is unbelievable. I look at him, I just shake my freaking head. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah. So,
well, I'll definitely concur with you on that. I tell him every day. Right now, my nickname for him is 3 times because I already know he's going to win his 3rd title for sure. There's no one who can touch him. But I also discussed with him how much he weighed and in good condition during this progress season.
Yeah.
And the matter is he's growing, and I think that it's going to eventually, within a year or two, he's not going to be able to get down to 212 or he's going to hurt himself. Almost like what Flex Lewis started to go through towards the end, where he would say, I was already in shape at 225. I had to kill myself to get to 212. That he's, as long as Keon, he's definitely mature ahead of his age. And he's very down to earth, and just like he kind of sees the big picture. He's not, and I think he knows that he doesn't want to destroy his lines. He's not going to just put on weight for the sake of weight to get bigger. And I think that he will. I personally feel that he's going to eventually hold the Mr. Olympia Open title because, I mean, if you are judging physiques like they should be judged, best physique versus best physique, not caring whether they're tall or short or whatever. I mean, obviously, what Sean went through with you, Sean Ray, is like, he's me, but big, taller. So that's, unfortunately you can't beat that.
Yeah.
If you're going best physique, I personally feel that Keon right now is the best bodybuilder in the world.
Yeah.
Just the way he looks right now. So he's still 30 years old. I mean, what is he going to look like in 5 years? I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no, he's definitely wiser. We talked to like, no, big bro, I want to have a good life when I retire. I want to have kids. I want to have grandkids. So, I'm like, man, always, because I see the weight that he's putting on. I'm like, how's your health? He goes, good, man. I get checked all the time. But, I agree because it's called bodybuilding. And, you have a lot of these guys just like C-Bomb, he would look amazing and then he would drop down just to get into that class. I was like, why build all this tremendous muscle and work hard to lose it all just to go into a category? So I do feel that about Keon because we seen him off season. I remember it was probably 3 weeks ago. He had showed me his glutes and they're already striated. And I was like, and the rest of his body's in. And I was thinking to myself, if he just dumped water and dumped sodium.
Walk on stage right now.
Yeah, he'd walk on stage now and be, just, if not win, be highly competitive in Olympia. So that's already in him. But, I'm proud that he's like, I'm going to take my time and there's something that I want to achieve before I move up into that category. But we don't know because at the rate he's putting on muscle right now and growing, and if he's as healthy as he says he is, I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, he's also got a wonderful woman by his side. Amanda's amazing.
Yeah.
So they're a really, really good team.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, Keon's just, he's just a great positive person, great person to be around.
Works hard, man.
I've trained him. I trained him a couple of times myself, and man, does he go at it. He goes at every time that he is in the gym. A lot of people talk about how guys don't train as hard as they used to.
Yeah.
And I think to a large degree it's true, but not Keon. Keon lays it all on.
Oh yeah. He's always laser focused when he's training. He's amazing. He's amazing to watch, and he's one of the reasons that I would go to the Olympia just to watch him compete. Yeah. And the other thing about it, we practice on posing. We practice on, so much of transition and stuff like that. And I know he's a student of that. He watches me, he watches Chris, he watches Kevin, and he takes a little bit of all of us and and he's an incredible showman on stage. So not only does he have wicked symmetry and wicked muscle and wicked condition, he's also now a showman, on stage. He knows how to show himself and he knows how to like almost create a storyline in his posing. So he's definitely a pure professional.
Exactly. Yeah, he's a throwback. He's a throwback in that way, but he's unbelievable. I can't wait to see what he's. Well, I already know he's winning his third title this year. There's nobody who's even close to. I already say they should just mail him the trophy right now because even if he walked on stage the way he looked in the gym right now, going to beat him anyway. He doesn't even have to. I mean, he's so good.
Yeah, amazing. So much muscle on his frame.
Speaking about people growing out of their class, Urs, the German kid, he went up to the open class. He announced it today.
I seen that. He can't
go down to the classic anymore.
Yeah, I seen that. I seen him a couple of times off season. I haven't seen him like in the last couple of years off season or anything like that. But yeah, it's true bodybuilding. And like I said, I know a lot of guys actually hurt themselves dropping weight just to make it into a category. And, I know it's because they feel they can be sharper and that category isn't as hard as the open class. But I mean, if you're truly a competitor, you should want to compete against the best and be the best you can. Not, it's almost like UFC fighters always wonder, like, they're middleweights and they're like 6'3", and I'm like, wait a minute, man, you're the height of a heavyweight, but they'll suck down to a class knowing that the day of the fight they'll be 20 or 30 pounds heavier. I never really understood that.
It's a dangerous practice, so you got to really be careful of all that stuff.
It's amazing. I mean, I worked with a couple of UFC fighters, and it was dumbfounding that they didn't know that much about dropping weight. They didn't know that much about water. They didn't know that much about training or eating or anything like that. I'm like, man, how do you guys, and you see them on their way and they're all striated and just like, how do you guys get there? But they damn near kill themselves. They'll lose all the weight, the day before, just dehydrating and doing sauna and stuff like that and wrapping themselves in blankets. And I'm like, no, man, we would be, it was more difficult for us, but we would be like normal. We'd be show ready a week out. We're just waiting, just to drop those last few pounds. So you guys don't even have to really worry about that. So how aren't you guys like in better shape? So you see a lot of guys now, they have nutritionists and training, training with weights and stuff like that. But I know for a long time, they just felt that training with weights would take away their flexibility or their speed. And I think Lee Haney was the first to prove that with,
Vander?
Evander, when he
Evander,
brought
yeah.
him and started training him in weights, and he just got bigger and stronger and faster.
Yeah, well, again, that's like you talked about before. They're all coming into our world
Yeah.
because our world has so much to teach, all the way from the nutrition of bodybuilding, the supplementation of bodybuilding, and the training. And
yeah.
So, Flex, do you want to talk about your company? You have a supplement company, right? A brand?
Yeah, I have a supplement company. It's called Flex Wheeler Nutrition. I'm really happy to be a part of it and everything. We're more powerful in the Middle East and in Asia.
Yeah.
I know when I was first talking to my business partner, I was like, man, I want to be in the USA. It's like, if you're not in the USA, you're just not known.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, let's become a bigger name and want people to have us there in the USA instead of just spending so much money. Because a lot of these companies in the United States, they have $1 million just to throw at advertising only.
Yeah.
And a lot of the companies, they succeed because they have a massive plan with advertising and now with having various different media personalities talk about their brand, but their actual products aren't that great.
Yeah.
So he's like, let's just create a superior products and then just let it filter its way down. So I'm like, okay, I get it, I understand. But even now, what's going on with tariffs and everything, with our
challenge,
with our presidential situation, things are just very different.
Yeah, yeah. And
you're still doing a lot of coaching, right? You're doing a lot of coaching these days.
Yeah, not as much as before. Eric, I'm extremely expensive. Even though I haven't changed my price since probably 10 years, but even back then I was charging $500 a session. And then I have a certain, if you're a professional, and, one of my major things is before I even work with you, you got to go get blood work done. I need to know what's going on inside you. But I'm really expensive to that. So I know that if I drop my price, I can have more athletes, but I'm just like you. I'm a firm believer. I'm not your psychiatrist. I'm not your babysitter. We're not going to sit here and talk about your problems or you broke up with your girl. No, we're in here to get at it, man. And, there's not a lot of people that want that type of toolage. They want to sit there and talk in between sets. And I'm like, if you got oxygen to talk, you got oxygen, you can go now, let's go. So,
yeah.
So I'm very picky. I'm at a point now where, unlike before when I was younger, it's like, if you paid me my price, okay, I'll train you. I just, if I don't see that you have the potential to make it big in a sport, I just won't bring you on, because I'm going to be the reason why you say you didn't make it. Instead of being honest with you, like, hey, listen, you might be great at regional shows, you might make it into the nationals, but I'm sorry, man, you just don't have it to ever be a competitive pro. And unfortunately, our sport is actually built on losers, because you have to have a 10th, an 11th, and a 12th, and a 13th place. It can't just be like, I remember back in our times, they were talking about they lose shows when me and Ronnie and Kevin shows up, because they have to pay out so much for us to get there. So I'm just really careful with that. And it takes so much energy out of me when a person, put that type of responsibility, like, hey, I want you to help me be better because I want to take care of my family one day with this sport. I take it so personal, and I'm so hands-on with everything, with your diet, how are you doing training? I text them, where's your mind from that? Where are you training? Are you eating? Did you eat? Getting into the gym. So it takes so much energy out of me. I'm exhausted. So, and especially with my health problems now and everything, I'm really careful with that. So I don't really coach that many people anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we want you to take care of your health, because I'd like you to be around for another 60 years.
Wow. Honestly, bro, I mean, again, with our current administration and just the way the world is going, I would not want to be here. I
always say that I don't want to live past a certain age anyway. Eventually I just want to say, you know what? It's been a good run.
Yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate it, Eric. I appreciate all your motivation. I get what you're saying. It's the same thing when I see you in the gym, when I see you in there training. I'm like, God dang, I got to get at it. I got to go harder. It's just, it's an honor to have created this relationship with you when there was nothing to gain from it. Where a lot of people, they create relationships because they see how this other person might be able to help them or benefit them. So to have been knowing you for so long and to seeing how we have both, changed in life and got wiser and stuff like that, I consider you a true friend and I appreciate you tremendously.
Oh, well, I mean, it makes me feel great to hear you say that because, yeah, I mean, it really, our working relationship that we had back in, when we were working together, that was one thing. But like, I feel like since we've been in Vegas together,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've, totally different. Now back then I considered you like, a work friend kind of thing, but
Yeah.
now I consider you an absolutely true friend,
Yeah.
and that's an honor for me because, if you told me back when I was watching the 1993 Olympia, you battling Dorian Yates, that I was ever going to even know Flex Wheeler, I would have been like, nah, that's never going to happen. So, just to be able to, and I listen, I totally get why you can't be in the gym all the time, 100%. Just know that when I say that I love to see you in the gym, that I feel good to see you in the gym, that is the true, honest feeling that I have. Like, I am very happy when I see you walk through those doors. And that's, I think, not because you're a Flex Wheeler, the champion bodybuilder, because you're Flex Wheeler.
Yeah.
That's it. Because you're the
I
guy.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. And I know you're sincere in your words and, I will. It's crazy. I'll get on my horse and I'll just get in there and I'll be training. I'm like, man, this is great. And something happened or I'll have to travel and I'll just fall off the horse. And it's just so hard to get back on it. But, I'm trying to just balance life and just understand, what's going on and, just putting my best foot forward. But I truly appreciate that, Eric. That means the world to me.
Well, listen, if you don't get in the gym for a while, then we're just gonna have to go out to lunch or something so I get to sit and talk to you if I can't be at the gym.
I
Go
will
grab a bite to
definitely,
eat.
I'll take you up on that,
Yeah.
definitely.
Let's do that. So, anything else, Kevin?
No, I mean, it's an honor talking to Flex. I mean, like I said, the last time I spoke to him in person was at the Arnold Classic in Europe, and I follow him, religiously. I try to watch all the, his interviews. Some of them are really deep, and I really enjoy. I mean, it's not just the champion on stage, but it's the champion off the stage and being an example and fighting through all the difficulties. And I always wanted to, to speak to you on the show. I mean, I'm really happy about it, and I'm glad Eric, made it work. So because sometimes it's not easy getting people on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. When he asked me, I knew I was going to do it, but it was a matter of just timing and stuff like that.
yeah,
And, like I said, when he gave the date, I already like knew that I did, but I forgot that I didn't even respond to him. So I
yeah.
did the day before and, we're going to do it next week, but I'm happy we did it. And I'm proud of you,
Listen,
man. I hope
it's
that you continue to get more followers, Eric. I wish you just, so much success
yeah,
in whatever you put your hand to, brother. I truly appreciate you.
yeah,
No, thank you so much, man. We really, yeah. So, thank you so much for
yeah,
not only giving us your time today, bro, but also just all the honesty that you put out there and just really like. I know sometimes it gets a little emotional and stuff, but I think that everything you said today is going to really benefit the people who listen to it, which is what we really want. We just want people who watch us. We're not those people who want to try to be controversial or try to
Yeah.
make clicks just because we say stupid stuff, whatever.
no, no,
Yeah.
Just Kevin and I agreed when we did this show. We want people to learn from it
yeah,
and really, get to know the people who were on it and just come to the show for a positive experience. So just
yeah.
what else can I say? But thank you so much, Flex.
No, it's an honor, brother. It's an honor. Definitely.
So
All right. Well,
that's
Kevin,
it.
you want to wrap it up?
That's it for now. And next week, I think we should be having another guest, a really fantastic bodybuilder. We did a feature on him last week. They call him. He calls himself Destiny 5 on social media. The guy, he competes with the other IFBB, the IFBB, of Rafael.
Uh,
He's a pro there, but
mm,
he's fantastic. I mean, I can't send you pictures of him, Flex. You'll say where this guy come from, you know, it's unbelievable. But we're looking forward to that show, and you know, hopefully Flex sometime he'll come back and we can either review a contest or whatever, you know.
Yeah, Flex, maybe after the Olympia,
Yeah,
you want to come on and we talk about what
yeah,
the results of the Olympia a little bit.
yeah,
Yeah, sure, definitely, brother.
yeah,
Not a problem.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All
All right,
right.
Flex, thank you so much. Have a great
Yeah,
rest of the day. And
yeah,
again, we appreciate you so much.
yeah.
All
That's it
right.
for now.
Thank you.
See you
Thank you,
guys.
Kevin.
Bye bye.
All
Bye.
right,
Bye.
we're out from the Muscle News and Merlin.
Yeah.